Welcome to the Lead Up Leadership Podcast. Hear from rising leaders and seasoned leaders across various industries to see about their leadership journey and how you can level up your leadership game. Here's your host, Renato G. Lead up!
All right, so we are back. I know it's been a minute. We are back with another episode of the Lead Up Leadership Podcast, and I'm going to give a very longer intro than usual. Because this guy is a good friend of mine. I'm not going to get into the full length story, but we met back at UC Davis. He might change up the story just a little bit, but I'm going to give you my perspective. But I met Aaron back, already 11 years ago, as a freshman at UC Davis in the dorm basketball courts. We just happened to be, we didn't know this, but we lived basically our dorm buildings right across from each other. But we first met on the basketball court. I think it was a 5-on-5 game. And obviously we're on different teams. He's going down the court for a layup. And, you know, I feel like I'm in a good position. If you don't know me too, right? I'm a short guy. This is Aaron's 6'3". I'm about a solid 5'4", 5'5", depending on the shoes. But so Aaron goes up for a layup and I'm in the best position to I literally have the palm of my hand on the ball, all ball, right? And for whatever reason, by the powers of, I don't know, the basketball gods, this ball goes into the hoop for a layup and I fall to the ground and I just look up and I'm like, what just happened? And then Aaron, I forget what Aaron says, but he could probably say it, but he's like, hey, nice try, something like that. And from that moment, you know, every time we saw each other throughout that year, because we still didn't really connect until the following year, we just there was something special about him in terms of just, you know, that connection. And it wasn't until the following year where we met, I think in gospel choir and different events that we were involved in, another student organization, DCF, where we grew our relationship and friendship. And we're going to talk about that, but want to give a special welcome to one of my good friends, Aaron Heredia. What's up, bro?
Hey, man, thanks.
Was that an okay intro?
Oh yeah, no, completely fair. And it's so funny too, you know, we rarely talk and that story doesn't come up, especially when we talk to people that maybe don't know us in context. And it's fun. It's a gift that keeps on giving. I think the only thing I would add,
be careful now.
Yeah, it was kind of like a floater, but it wasn't like a runner. It was just kind of, but it was a little bit farther away from a layup maybe. But it was left baseline. I remember that much. And you got up, man. Dude, I'm telling you guys, 18, 19-year-old Renato, quick, so fast, man. He used to hound me. I'd have the ball at the top of the key, you know, trying to set up the play, get the offense going. And man, he used to constantly give me trouble. He would switch on to me and I'd be like, man, with this little man on me again.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to work for my points. And so yeah, he switched over onto me there at the baseline and it was definitely all ball. It was a clean play. And you know, like I always say, you can't teach height. That's what saved me. Wasn't hang time. It was just that height that my feet were probably an inch off the ground. I was able to just get that last, you know, bit of extension. And yeah, like you said, the basketball gods, I don't know, whoever were smiling down on me that night for sure. And but it's funny because, you know, we've had the privilege of being friends for so long and doing so many other things of consequence, you know, after that. But I agree, like, definitely we had like you said, a bond, a friendship. Even we just see each other at the courts or whatever, or like you said, you know, we'd see each other on our way to different Bible studies before I was in DCF even, and not even knowing each other. We're Christians until we met at gospel choir. So it is kind of funny how things work out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I probably would have said something too, you know, I don't think I was a full Christian yet at the time. So no, I'm just
baby
kidding.
Christian.
I know, right? But anyways, we're getting off the track. I knew this was gonna happen, but it's okay. I love it. But this is a leadership podcast, and there's a reason why I brought you on. You have done so much, not only at Davis, right? Either together, right? I know you did a lot of stuff in terms of personal training and other certifications that you got, but even now, working for the state and having your own business, which we're all going to get into some of those questions. But just quickly, could you just share a little bit about your current role and some of those responsibilities?
Yeah, sure. So I, for 6 years now, have been working as a budget analyst. It's called, with the Department of Finance. So basically, the department's role is we are the chief fiscal policy advisor to the governor. We're part of the executive branch, part of the administration. And so we analyze all policy that comes through the legislature in a given year, in a given session, right? So any new bill that were to be potentially put into law, even if it's not fiscal, we do analyze it and submit that to the governor's office, and we're part of that process. And then also a often larger chunk of our workload is actually putting together what's called the governor's budget. And so every fiscal year we prepare the governor's proposed budget for any publicly funded program, whether that be state dollars or federal dollars that we basically steward, that the feds give us. And then, we pay for programs, whether that's in the social services, health and human services, education. And I work specifically in education, and I work on the budget for K-14 education, K-14 schools. So anything from kindergarten through 12, school districts, charter schools, county offices of education, and then even up to community colleges, right? Nice. K-14, we say. So, because those are all publicly funded local educational agencies. And kind of fell into it. We can get more into my background before that, maybe later, but ended up just getting on through their normal hiring process 6 years ago, and then kind of worked my way up through the ranks. Had the privilege of working on the local control funding formula, which maybe some of your listeners will have heard of. It's a relatively recent policy change, funding change back in 2013 that changed how the state funds K-12 education pretty significantly. And so I've worked a lot on with the Department of Education on how we implement that, how we budget that. And then more recently, the last maybe 2 or 3 years, a big part of my job is actually projecting what's available within what's called the Proposition 98 minimum guarantee for K-14 schools. So that's something that's in the California Constitution, passed in the 80s, that basically looks at a bunch of different economic indicators and makes an attempt at growing education funding on an annual basis in line with inflation and population changes. That's kind of the best quick pitch I could give it. And so that's what I work on. I'm actually a supervisor just as of earlier this year. So me and one staff cover basically the LCFF and the Prop 98 calculation, like I mentioned. And it's been really cool. It's given me a ton of opportunities, like you said, in the leadership realm, both how to lead myself and how to be, a good employee, a good coworker, but also now having direct reports, transitioning into that role. And what does that look like? And, reflecting what helped me, what were qualities in some of my best supervisors. And I've been fortunate to have great ones at finance, in my opinion, and really trying to make sure that I can help foster, the same kind of growth that I feel like privileged to be able to have, at least the opportunity for it, right? Everybody makes their own choices, but I feel like I was definitely given a lot of good opportunities, and I'm definitely striving to be able to do the same for other people. So yeah.
And the awesome thing is, funny enough, right? Like, because you work in terms of Department of Education, like we have a lot of conversations, from both ends, right? In terms of financials and resources and budgeting. And then I'm on the side of sometimes on the ground working some of those organizations, right? And direct service, right? So it's just great how some of those things, we've had definitely a lot of interesting conversations. But in addition to your current role, right, your 9 to 5, quote unquote, you also have a business. You and your wife have your own business. And I did want to touch on that a little bit, because as if you weren't doing a lot already, and you also guys welcomed your first son, right, into the world. You're a dad. And so with all that's going, before I kind of get too fast, so let's talk about the business. How did you guys get started with, with adding your own business? And let's start there. How did you guys get started?
Sure. So it's funny, man. So we basically happened upon a friendship with a couple that had already a relatively successful business in the network marketing space, kind of in the fitness and wellness product network marketing space. To put it in a box, I don't like to do that because people put multi-level marketing, network marketing, whatever you want to use in a pretty negatively connotated box. But I do that just so that people can at least have some kind of context. But they had some really amazing results in their lives, in terms of the type of, values that they were able to live out through their life, and be able to, one couple that they introduced us actually to in particular, that we know on a personal level now, were able to create like full freedom out of their careers. And they weren't willy-nilly careers. They were successful by all, meanings of the word, and they were able to completely walk away from those. And now they help families do the same thing. And so it was definitely a different tune than I had heard previous to that. I think Maria and I were maybe 23, 24 years old when we were first introduced to these folks, and, definitely had my skepticisms. My mom had, sold like Herbalife when I was growing up, and I just seen the grind that she put in, and the real hype them up, sign them up, lose weight now, ask me how, all these tactics that they use. I mean, she had like a dialer that like called people and, like automatically. This was back in the, late 90s, early 2000s. And I just was always like, I don't want to do that. Like that's bogus. But the more I got around these people, and not only the results they had financially, but definitely the results they had holistically, the types of marriages they had, the relationship they had with their kids. I kind of just was like, I want to be around these people, even if there wasn't a business at hand. Like, these are just people that I align with their values. Like, why would I not at least want to learn from? Like, they obviously have a result we like to call fruit on the tree in their life that, is good fruit, right? And that I would like to pick and understand, how do you get that? How do I grow my tree to look like that? And so that's kind of the quick and dirty, in a way, of just kind of why we ended up getting involved in the first place, and launching out, partnering with them in business. And so now it's been several years, around almost as long as I've been at my job, that we've been now expanding our business, building a team of people. Obviously there's a customer side of it as well. And so much of it is also just personal growth. And I think that's what attracted us to it in the first place, is just that ability to, and the encouragement and the resources, the like path, right? Because you hear so much talk on YouTube, on whatever, of, you gotta have a mentor, man. And it's like, okay, that's true. But like, a mentor from where, and how do you know if it's a good mentor? And so, and like, you should read, but what do you read? And you should listen to, but what do you listen to? Or I think back to the gym when I was personal training, it was one of the biggest gripes from people, or not gripes, but just like kind of complaints, that they were like, I know I need to do exercise, but who do I listen to? How do I know that they're reputable? How do I know that, like, what they're telling me is in line with my goals too? It's one of the, I think it's one of the biggest things that keeps people from getting into a fitness regimen, is that they don't really know where to start. And that's something I'm thankful for with our mentors, is they were very transparent. And so I was able to see, like, okay, this is someone that like has results across the board that I want. So I'm going to listen to them.
Yeah. You said a lot of good stuff there about personal growth, and, not knowing where to start, where to get certain information, because you were certainly right, because like, as years have progressed, maybe from when you started, so much more information is out there now, right? In terms of, different industries and different business opportunities. But just looking back, I think you mentioned several years now into launching you guys' business. And I don't know if you want to speak for you and Maria, or just yourself, but, what has been the most challenging, but also the most rewarding part of, having your own business? And I don't know if they're two and the same, or just two different things altogether.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Challenging and rewarding. I think there's definitely universal principles for sure. I think I would say, regardless of what type of business you're in, because even when I was a personal trainer, and that was my main business as like a 1099 independent contractor at a couple different gyms, and I would definitely classify that as like a small business type of setup, because I wasn't technically an employee. The challenging thing is that no one's going to fire you. You put in as much work as you want, right? You go, like when I was a trainer, same thing. I mean, if I wanted clients, I had to go hustle. I had to go market myself. I had to invest in myself so that I could know how to attract clients and how to give value, right? I mean, there's so much I've learned too, being a business owner in another industry, that I wish I would have known as a personal trainer. I think I would have been more successful. And then now with our business now, I mean, it's really that same thing. Like, I think the challenge is, how do you keep yourself committed to the reason you have a business in the first place? Because like I said, no one's going to fire you. If you take a day off, a week off, you know, whatever your like business building habit is, and you take a day off from that, a week or month or whatever, like no one, I mean, ostensibly, like you're in partnership with someone who's mentoring you. So they might, you know, have something to say about it, but it's not a boss employee relationship. And I think that can cut both ways, because it can enable you to be fired up and excited and put in a ton of time, but it can also lead to you not be like keeping yourself accountable enough when you really need to be doing more work. And then we complain about that we don't have more results, and it's like, well, we didn't put in the work, you know. I think that, and then just the fact that it's not an hourly situation. Building any kind of business is not an hourly situation. So, and that knocks a lot of people out. And if you let it, you know, I'd be lying if I said that Maria and I hadn't, you know, struggled with that mentality at times of like, man, I wish we would have had more success by now. And it was the same thing when I was personal training too, like not having that long-term mindset and just wanting to be like, I'm this good at it, I should make this much money, you know, for this unit of effort or time. And it just doesn't work that way. And then I think the reward piece is sticking with it and seeing the result, seeing the result, whether that's a result in your own personal growth or whether that is a result in, you know, the financials of it. Or in the case of, again, I keep going back to personal training, but the same thing, like when I was a trainer, the result was helping someone, you know, look better, feel better, live better. Like, nothing beats that. You can't put a price on that. I had so many people who would tell me afterward, like, you know, thank you so much for having me as a client. You helped me in A, B, and C. I was able to do this and that. We met my goals, and I couldn't have done it if you hadn't shown me the way. And like that's awesome. And that's something I'll be able to carry with me, not as like a point of pride, but just something that I'm grateful that I was able to have that part in that person's life and share like and give value to them. And then with our business now, it's the same thing. Like, my mentors like to say that everyone's in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And it's such a good thing, I think, to take to heart, where like everyone you come into contact with, whether it's in a business capacity or not, like what is the impact you're going to have on them? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? You know, is this someone you're going to know for a week or years or your rest of your life? Like, how are they going to remember you? Are you going to be adding value or taking away value? And I think that's that. Again, like there's kind of a challenge built in there too, but also a huge reward, because I think if you steward that opportunity right, you can have a really, really, you can leave a legacy really with that person. And yeah, it's awesome, sobering, but exciting.
Yeah, no, that's good. Now I'm gonna take a deeper dive a little bit more, because, you know, when I talk to people, you know, whether it's launching a business or, you know, whether it's like a creative thing, right? Music, food catering business, right? You guys have your business as well. Man, I commend you guys, because I could see like the work that it takes, you know, in addition to what you guys are already doing from the 9 to 5, or people that have gone, you know, full into, you know, their business endeavor. So 2 questions. I'm gonna ask the first one. How do you continue to stay motivated? Because you mentioned that commitment portion. And what are you doing to stay on top of like learning the things that you need to do to, you know, to stay on top of your game, to stay motivated and focused within your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I like to start with the differentiation between motivation and commitment. There's a reason I use the word committed or commitment earlier, because I actually heard it recently, and I latched onto it. I'm gonna also spread this same frame of mind, because what I heard recently was someone put it this way, where they said motivation is your why for doing something, right? It's why you get up early in the morning to work out. It's why you invest your time in a business on the side of your job. It's, whatever that why is. It could be, financial independence, or it could just be like enough money to supplement your wife's income so she can come home and be a full-time mom, or it could be even less than that. It could be $500 on the month to help pay off student loan debt. Like, your why could be any number of things, but it has to be strong enough that it's going to motivate you, right, to do whatever you got to do. But then that's kind of, to me, like the beginning point, right? Motivation gets you started. Motivation starts the fire. But how do you stay committed? That's another bigger thing, right? How you stay committed is the habits like you're talking about. I think your question is really getting to, what are those habits that are going to take you from just being motivated to actually implementing on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, right? So to answer that question, I think it's a whole slew of things. For me, it's definitely keeping the why in front of me. So for me, at different time, that's been different things. Right now, something I've been doing this year that I still haven't been super good at making it like an everyday habit, but I'm working on it, is the word just went out of my head, affirmations. And having those written out, and every day saying those out loud, that these are what I'm affirming in myself. These are the kind of results I'm going to have. This is the kind of person I am. And saying those with conviction, right? I mean, how many athletes and successful people do you hear about this type of stuff from, right? You conceive it in your mind first, you say it, and then you act it out, and it becomes reality. And so I think that's a really powerful tool that I'm continuing to take more advantage of, and then keeping the why in front of me too. Whether that's like, if it's material things, there's not. I mean, I do want to have nice things, but I think for Maria and I, it's more what we want to be able to do for the world. So like talking about that, talking about how we want to help our families. Our parents retire well. Neither of them are in a situation where that's going to be super easy for them without our help. And so being able to create something so that we can be in a position to do that is something that's really important for us, that they can be, grandparents at ease and we can help them do that, because we want to stand on their shoulders. Right. And talking about that for us, that's just talking about it and reminding us, because otherwise, especially in a year like this year, it can be so easy to just wallow in the negative. And so Maria and I just connecting. And so if you have a significant other, just, connecting with that person and just kind of reminding yourselves periodically, like, why are we trying to do something else, right? And that I mean, that topic spans everything. It's not just our families, it's all the missions work we want to do, again, all the giving. We have just a huge heart for giving, really. I mean, one of the things that motivates me to stay committed is like, so many times I'll talk to people about potentially partnering in business, or maybe even just generally, and people will say, oh, well, I don't need a lot of money. I just, I got my house, this and that. And they act as if needing a lot of money or wanting to have a lot of money is the selfish part. But in my mind, the selfish thing is to not want a lot of money. And here's why. Because money is just a tool, right? And if it's in the hand of people who, are evil or who are selfish, they're just going to do selfish things with it.
Right.
But in my opinion, if it's in the hands of people who want to do good with it, who see it as a tool, it's not inherently good or evil.
Right.
Then I only need so much money to have my house, have a car that works, put food on the table. That number is actually pretty small. Yeah, agree, 100%. But then to be able to bless all the people that I want to bless, that number is in the millions, right? When you really get down to it, in terms of the regional, the global impact that we, and I know you have a heart for too, just from the different trips and things we've been on and done. That's where I'm like, so you're going to be so selfish as to not try to create something, to use the talents that God's given you to open up those doors. People just get so fixated on money having an inherent value, or this inherent moral value. And I'm like, it doesn't. It's about you. So, and I think keeping that at the forefront, because otherwise it would be easy for me to just say like, yeah, I I make great money doing what I do,
Yeah.
and the work-life balance is not always great, but like, I'm in an industry where even if I were to switch jobs, I could probably find a similarly like compensated job.
Mm.
And we would be fine, right?
Yeah.
Like income wise, we could live probably a decent life, but we wouldn't be able to do any of those other things we want to do. I
Yeah.
mean,
Right.
even helping our parents would be difficult. We could probably invest some money, put away something for them, something like that.
Right.
But on the scale that we really want to, no.
Wow, man, you said a lot of good stuff, and especially when it comes to like money, which it is a huge, I would even say issue, but it is a topic that, because of how we grew up in terms of who we got the information from, right? Whether it's
Oh yeah.
family, friends, or even like, education itself, right? Thinking about, getting a job, right? I know a lot of things can influence how we think and what we say we know about money, which then leads into certain behavior that we do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about kind of the transformation that you've had over this time? Because I want to touch a little bit more, because it's important when like a lot of the people that tune in, right, are kind of like young professionals, maybe people that are starting at an entry, or they're trying to transition or trying to move up. And I totally respect and just admire how much you've, like I said, having a 9 to 5, starting a business. You guys just welcome first son, baby boy, right? Now you're a father, like balancing all those things, but still being able to climb and still add value into your life. And so I just want you to kind of touch on, how do you, and this goes back to the habits. What's the cost? Basically, that's what I'm trying to get at. What's the cost that you've had to really, give up certain things to get where you actually want to go? Because again, what you're saying, there's a motivation, and it could start and end to a certain degree, but the commitment part is where it's going to carry, I would say the long-term
Yeah.
piece. And so I guess just to touch a little harder on that, just, maybe go a little bit more of like, what did you really have to give up when you guys took these steps to get where you are today, whether it's personally or as a couple?
Yeah, man, that's definitely a loaded question, because there's so many things
Yeah.
to speak to, but I want to kind of home in on, well, you said it a couple times, giving up. What do we have to give up to, to invest into ourselves and then to our business and have that long-term mindset? And I say that because it's so funny. We often use that language of give up or sacrifice, right? But I don't really think that that's the right phrasing,
Okay.
because when you sacrifice, right, you're giving up something potentially of like greater value for maybe something of less value, or maybe something of greater value than that. I mean, you don't know.
Right.
Or when you give up something, it sounds like you're kind of like you're foregoing something that or at least that's the connotation that comes to my mind. You're foregoing something that you should do, or you really wanted to do, that added some value. When in reality, and this isn't to be judgmental, like I'm preaching to myself, when in reality, when I look at the things that I've had to give up in order to make sure that I'm investing in myself and investing in my business and also investing in family, right? Because like you said, you have a new son and a wife, we all have needs. We all have our love languages that need to be our love tanks, we call them, that need to be filled, right? Otherwise, you're not going to have a happy marriage. You're not going to have happy kids. They're going to be distant, and your life's going to kind of suck. So there's always going to be things that require your time, right? But I think to long way to get to the answer is that they're trade-offs, and I look at it this way. What I'm trading, maybe spending a few hours a week playing video games, which occasionally I still might play video games. That's fine, but it's about priorities, right? I'm not going to prioritize an hour or two every night or on the weekends to play video games over spending time with family or reading or putting in some work on the business end, whatever facet of it that is. Like, why would I do that? Like, that's a no-brainer. But it kind of gets back to my earlier point of like, you don't have a boss in traditional business or even small business. Like typically, if you're the business owner, you don't have a boss, so no one's gonna like come and bang on your door and be like, what are you doing on Xbox or PlayStation or whatever, right? Like it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work that way. And also, it means sometimes missing out maybe on family functions. We try to definitely, think of it again in terms of priorities. Is there do we have something for our business going on a particular day, and there's maybe a birthday for a relative, a birthday party?
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to make the birthday party, but if we have something that's going on in our business that people we partner with are expecting us to be at, it's a no-brainer. Like if we had a traditional business, a storefront, it would be no different, right? And I think when you're talking about entrepreneurship in particular, people don't make that connection that like, if I had a storefront and, there was a family emergency, I'd probably still have to be at my store. Like, or I'd have to, unless if I had leveraged myself already through several employees that could take over for me. Right. But if I'm a sole proprietor, I got to be there or I lose money. And it feels kind of cold and hard to think of it that way, but like it is that way. Now, at the flip side, like fortunately, particularly through what we do, leveraging kind of network marketing, small business type of a setup, you don't have a storefront. So you do, again, that's that challenge where it's like, you do have the freedom to not show up, and maybe the difference would be negligible. You don't know, but it creates what we like to call like an integrity gap. So you're not doing what you said you committed to. And at a certain point, that's going to mess you up. And, so for the most part, to really get back to the core of your question, I look at it as the biggest things that I'm trading off for is, like I said, things of leisure, right? For the most part, whether that's video games or, maybe hanging out with friends sometimes, which, left to my own devices, I probably would do more. But it's a matter of, okay, well, do I want to do that? Or do I want to build, whether it's the asset in between my ears or, my actual business asset. And again, it's about prioritizing those things. I think you can have a life, but if you look at examples of people like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or whoever, I mean, dude, they talk about like working 12, 14 hours a day when like Microsoft was first getting started. They weren't worried about what they were giving up. They were worried about changing the world. And I'm not there. Like I'm not there. I have moments where I'm like, you know what? I just want to hang out and, watch Netflix or listen to a podcast that isn't about personal growth, right? I want to talk. I want to listen to sports talk. Like I'm far from being perfect in that arena. And I think it's important to also have rest points for yourself. I'm a big believer in that.
There you go.
But I do think that like you gotta keep yourself honest of what you really want. And that gets back to the why. Like is a good filter to run things through is whatever I'm going to do today or in this block of time going to get me closer to my goal or further or take me away. And then it's up to you to decide, whether you want to do that.
No, it's good. That's good stuff, man. And I like how you talked about rest. And I think there's definitely a lot of practical steps that people can do. And whether it's, doing their own business or even, where you're at in your current job at the state. And maybe you can give just a few more of like, from your own experience, like what have been some practical steps or what are some practical steps that if people want to go in a similar role or industry or maybe potentially start their own business, how can they move up? How can they get some momentum for success as they continue to start and move forward to be committed?
I think write down what you want, set a course, or at least like I said it on the event you had me zoom into a few weeks ago. Be flexible with the path, but stubborn with the vision. What is your vision, right? What is the result you want in life? And it's yours. And don't let anyone tell you it's stupid or whatever. I mean, the kid who grows up wanting to be an NBA player, like they have to be unwavering in that commitment to that dream, right? And then they're gonna do whatever they have to do along the way to make that happen. But they set the vision. And so I think setting the vision is the first key step. And then, okay, well, how do I get there? Right. Let's say I want to be a millionaire. I don't know, like that probably get more specific than that, but like still, if that were your goal, then, okay, well, how to do that? If I could be a millionaire, I probably should have income. so
Yeah.
maybe I should get a job, right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, well, what kind of job, what kind of industry might set me up to learn some things that would help me create more income? Like, maybe, is there an industry where maybe I could meet other entrepreneurs or other, kind of like-minded
Right.
people, and then kind of go on and on, right? And set yourself up for,
Yeah.
6 months from now, a year, 5 years, 10 years, have that plan.
Yeah.
I think that would definitely be my first step. And then probably uh, take stock of where you're at now, right?
Mm.
If you already have a quote unquote good job, or maybe you're looking for a change, or maybe you're just getting out of school and you're looking for a job, or you're looking to start a business, do a time block, a time budget.
Mm-hmm.
So take stock of your day, and per day, per week, what does your schedule look like? What do you prioritize? What
Yeah.
are, there's an analogy you might have heard, little rocks and big rocks. Big rocks are
Yep.
your non-negotiables. Like, what are those
Mm-hmm.
things that need to get done first? And then the little rocks are everything that gets added on top that,
Yeah.
is really secondary. And take stock of what those things are, right? So for myself, it was, okay, well, I have this, I get up at this time, I go to bed at this time.
Mm-hmm.
I work from these hours to these hours. I take a break, a lunch break here. I help Maria with Sammy here and here, or, whatever, and then certain days, maybe we got to get chores done.
Right.
I work out this many days out of the week. Okay, so where's that going to go? And then how long is that going to take? And even that's a trade-off too. Cause like, left to my own devices, like I would work out 2 hours, take my time, whatever, or like, add extra stuff, like, or go get some shots up at the court by my house. Like,
Yeah.
I've always been an active person. So it's not hard for me to find a reason,
Right.
or a thing to work out, but I have priorities. So I try my best to get a workout in under an hour, as good as possible,
Mm-hmm.
every time that I work out, and, kind of logging that in, what it was. And it doesn't have to be, that for everybody, but then
Right.
there's also too, like, what are my personal growth habits? So for me, I
Mm.
try to read at least 15 minutes a day. And like,
Mhm.
I have like, in the past, I've used like a habit tracker app for
Mhm.
all of these things that I want to make sure I get in.
Yeah.
And there's several that are free, and you can just,
Right.
put in there, work out this many days a week, read this many days a week, whatever else you want to put on there, really.
Right.
Get your life kind of, budgeted, really. And people think of a budget as constraining, but it's not constraining. It's,
Mhm.
you're now in control, and you know what's happening, right?
Right.
Because otherwise, we just kind of go through life, and life happens to us. We don't act on life.
Mm.
And so I think taking those kind of steps of setting your goals and taking stock of where you are and where you want to be is how you
Right.
make sure that you are acting on life. You are, creating the life that you want to live, not just taking what life gives you. Because so many
Right.
people have that mindset of like, oh, I'm just rolling with the punches. And it's
Right.
like, well, okay, then life is
Mhm.
going to punch you pretty good.
Right. And no, it's so true. And I'm glad that I changed my mindset, because I used to think like that as well, rolling with the punches. After I got tired of getting punched, I wanted to punch back. So started
Yeah.
punching back, and it feels good to be on this side. But as we start wrapping up, I do want to ask a couple more things. As you look, as you continue on your vision, on your path to getting to your goals and success, what's next for you? What are you hoping to accomplish in this next year, 5 years? Where do you see yourself in this next? Especially during this time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm definitely hopeful. I'm positive. I think this year has been a year. I mean, not even just with COVID, but you think everything going on
Of
with,
course.
racial injustice, social injustice, the election coming up, all
Mhm.
the things that are swirling. And even, personally with us as Christians, churches not being able to meet in person. And I think it's been a real reckoning for the
Yeah.
body of Christ in America of like, okay, we don't get to go to church now. So what's
Right.
going to happen? Are we going to lean in to the Lord?
Right.
I heard somebody in a sermon say, do you trust more in your protest or in the power of prayer? And he wasn't saying
Oh,
that protesting is
hey, come on,
bad.
man. Okay.
Because I certainly don't feel that way. I think
Yeah.
protesting is key. We should do it. I'm I am all absolutely for it. That is a First Amendment right. I don't want to get anybody getting that twisted.
Right.
But I also believe in the power, of prayer as a Christian, and that we ultimately, there could be whatever laws in place that they are. And I think there is a fight on the social justice front. Things should be done. Things should be fixed. Things should be improved for minorities of all kinds. And that's not up for debate, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, God is bigger than that. And what if we didn't live in America, right? Like, what if prayer really was the only thing we had, and you couldn't protest or you'd be killed? And so really, I think this year is an opportunity to take that to heart and remind ourselves of, like, is going to church every week enough? Are we just checking off a box, or are we really going to go after God for what he has? And so I'm hopeful from that front that, people are going to come out of this year better off for it. I don't, I'm not glad that this happened. I'm not saying that, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth. And for myself personally, I'm really looking forward to, I heard one of my mentors say that, this year's like a weight vest opportunity. So when you train with a weight vest, right, it's hard and you get more tired, your heart rate gets higher, you sweat more. But when you take it off, you're swifter, you run faster. And I think this year is a classic example of that, where how hard you run this year at whatever your goals are, once kind of COVID rolls over, things get more back to normal, you're going to be even more fit to succeed once things are back to quote unquote normal, right? Whenever that is. And, things will never be exactly the same, but we're not going to be locked down quite how we are to this level, forever. And so preparing for that. And for myself, what I'm looking forward to taking advantage of that is just continuing to stay in the fight when it comes to business. And on the network marketing front, that's difficult when everybody's wearing masks, and a big part of what we do is face to face. But you can do it. There's people out there, and research shows too that in a recession, people are more open than other times to build business on the side. So that's a big thing. And then also, like, we have more time inside, so why not read more? If people don't know about, like, the Libby app that you can get on your phone, you can, as long as you have a library card, which is free, you can use this app to basically rent ebooks and audiobooks on your phone. Wow. Dude, it's awesome.
Libby.com.
Just on the App Store. Just go to just put in Libby. It's an app, Oh,
awesome. Okay.
And you can get. I know I found out from a coworker a while back, and it's been revolutionary because now not only I have podcasts in my phone, but I can go and put a hold on an audiobook. I was listening to a Malcolm Gladwell book earlier today. There's another one about from a entrepreneur author that I just found out that I was, I just, while I was doing stuff over the weekend, doing chores, taking care of different things, dude, I listened to like 2.5 hours, almost halfway through the book, just in a couple of days. And, take advantage of those time, your non-productive time, to build myself. That's definitely a big piece. And then, of course, obviously I want the business to grow and succeed, and not just, like I said, not just this asset, but definitely, the asset in the bank, which means I got to help more people and get better at that. Right. I'm a big believer that you're not in charge of, or you're not leading a big group because you're not ready to. Right. Ooh. And so I have to, make myself ready to have the influence that I want to have. And then, at work, whether I stay at this job for the next 5 years or not is uncertain, but regardless, wherever I'm at, I want to be able to add value to the people that I work with, that I work for, that report to me, really help them advance their careers as much as possible. Because I definitely believe, like I said, I've had a lot of opportunities to do so. I want to pay that forward. And really also, as long as I work in education policy, there's a real sobriety that comes with that, in the sense of, like, we have more than 6 million kids enrolled in K-12 schools and public schools. And I want to do right by them. I was fortunate to have a pretty good time, in my K through 12 between homeschooling and public school. And I had parents that really cared, but not every kid, has that, or has access to school in a good place, right, with IYT. And so really taking that to heart, that while I may not have boots on the ground experience like you do, or like teachers do, what I do does matter and does impact those kids in one way or another. And so keeping that at the forefront, and hopefully being a part of, policies that can do right by them, especially as we come out of this time, because I get to be in some of these meetings here in Sacramento where, these things are discussed. And I'm not always in a position to really be one to speak up on constructive criticism, but when I do feel like I have something of value to add, I do my best too, and try to represent them, in conjunction, of course, with the legislature and everybody else, as well as I can. And then one last thing, actually, so I've had the idea for a while, but I recently, just literally over this last weekend, I finally put in some of the foundational stuff for another business that it's a business. It's kind of it's a website. I don't know exactly if or how I would monetize it. My heart really is just to add value. So it's going to be called Human Growth Habit.
Okay.
So you can look for that on socials. I'm definitely going to get the Instagram.
Oh, we're going to have to follow up
that.
about that. Okay.
Yeah.
This is hot off the press.
Yeah, I definitely, and my heart with that is that, and that's something I really like to see grow, definitely, when you talk about over the next 1, 5, 10 years. That kind of gets to my heart as a coach, where I think when I was in fitness, and also now that I've been, in the policy world, and also in the small business world, so often people, like I said earlier, people don't know where to start. Right. They know there's resources. There's, you want to learn about fitness, just go on YouTube. Oh my God, there's millions of videos, right? There's clickbait everywhere. How do you know who's saying, who to trust? Who, people are quoting research, but like, are they twisting the research? Right. And the same thing with leadership and mentorship. Like, everybody's a mentor now, right? You log up a video, you log up a fitness video on YouTube, and the ad before the video is somebody talking about, stop what you're doing right now. These are my 10 stocks you need to invest in right now. And, we're just like inundated with these people marketing stuff to us. And how do you know who to listen to? And my hope is that I could kind of be a place with Human Growth Habit where I talk about that. Like, okay, well, what are the habits that are going to lead to you living a successful life? Whether that's mentally, whether that's physically, both. What are those things you can look for? And so my hope is to be kind of a traffic conductor to those resources, right? And say, hey, here's a book I read, here's what it said, and here's how I've applied it. You take it for what it's worth. I'm not necessarily marketing any product of mine, but I'm doing my best to kind of, just like when I was a personal trainer, I had knowledge about how to get fit, and now I'm sharing that with you. Right. And we build a relationship, and you trust me as someone who can distill the information to you so that you can have an actionable, thing to do.
No, that's good.
That's
That's awesome. And now that you're sharing about Human Growth Habit, if people are interested in learning more about that business, or even your other business, or just have questions about what you do in at the state, how can they, get in contact with you or follow up with you?
Yeah. So I don't use my personal Instagram a whole lot, but it is there. I think it's Aaron J Heredia. That's at Aaron. That's the handle. And then for Human Growth Habit, I'm going to be starting that up. So that'll be Human Growth Habit, just like that. Not planning on having any underscore. The website will be live soon. That's going to be
nice.
For now, that's going to be humangrowthhabit.weebly.com. Weebly is that, one of the many website hosting sites. And then I'll probably buy the domain sooner than later. Or even if they want to get in touch with you and get my personal contact, that's fine as well. If somebody really wanted to follow up, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, Aaron Jose Heredia. So usually if you don't put the Jose, I don't come up as easily. I don't know why, but if people wanted to get in touch via LinkedIn or Facebook, those are definitely reliable ways.
Awesome. Well, again, man, I appreciate you being on here. I know we can definitely go on for hours, a lot longer.
We didn't even talk about the Niners or anything.
I know that's for a different podcast. But now that I know about Human Growth Habit, we're gonna have to follow up for sure. But
Awesome.
Greatly appreciate you, our friendship, and just kind of admiring and respecting all the things that you're doing from afar. Even when we get to connect, man, we just catch up and learn so much from each other. So really value you, man, in my life. So thank you again for being on this and just sharing the knowledge.
And so same here, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So that was just another episode of the Lead Up Leadership Podcast with Aaron Heredia.